Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the Product Spotlight. I am Dave Cooper, and today we are going to have a replay of a great conversation we had with Steve Glenn from Plant Prefab. We are in the process of moving, and we are moving day in and day out this week. I'm moving the house, so we're really just slammed up with all kinds of fun stuff happening. But I really did want to replay this video that we had in this conversation with Steve Glenn from Plant Prefab, because it is a conversation that we had very early in the process at davecooper.live here. And I think it's very, very telling as to where we were and where we're going. And, they're doing a really great hybrid approach. And if you haven't seen this video, I think it's going to be a great video for you to watch. So with that said, we are live on 3 locations, plus one we're trying: LinkedIn, YouTube, and Facebook, and Twitch. Why Twitch? Twitch is where the young folks are, and we need more young folks in our industry. So that's why I don't say 4, because we're just trying that out. So what are we doing here at davecooper.live? We are bringing you the people and the processes that are building it better. Our guests and topics include experts in building systems, building science, to building codes, and the tech used to build better. So with that said, I also want to say a big shout out to our sponsor today, Forward Solutions Group, Ben Hershey and Joe Butler. They have more than 175 plus years of experience developing and specifying manufacturing for the panelized and volumetric modular industries. With best practices in development and implementation, they offer consulting with investors, developers, manufacturers, and builders, and using offsite manufacturing methods. Forward Solutions is driving companies to succeed where others have failed. So please reach out to them. You can reach them, Ben, at forwardsolutionsgroup.com. I am proud to have them as a sponsor. They have been great to work with, and I know there is a ton of people that really like working with them out there as well. So if you do not know Forward Solutions Group, you do now, and you should check them out. All right, so with that said, I am going to pop in periodically during this video and come back and answer questions and say hello to everybody, because that's super, super important to us. But for now, why don't we go to the video and enjoy. Good morning. Guess what? We got Steve Glenn on this morning. How you doing, Steve?
I'm good. I'm honored to be a part.
Yeah. No, this is going to be a lot of fun. I've been hoping to talk to you for a long time. Our path has crossed at the international builder shows and other places. But for those of us that are out here watching what you're doing, it's absolutely amazing, especially in the offsite construction world, because you are doing things that nobody else is doing that I know of, and I am looking forward to jumping into some of this stuff. And I think everything. I mean, you've done charity work, significant charity work in Africa. I mean, chairman and CEO of People Inc., right? Founder and partner of Idea Lab, Living Homes, Plant Prefab. I have a piece of paper. I have to run through the list. There's so much stuff that you've been doing. Tell us a little bit about, with your tech background and everything you've done, why offsite construction? What made you say, hey, I'm going to hop into this?
Well, growing up as a kid, my first love was architecture. I had books on Frank Lloyd Wright and Legos, and I wanted to be an architect. That's the first job I wanted to have. And I got to college and I got involved in technology like right away, but I still thought I might go into design. So one summer I did a design program, and I learned there that I really had neither the talent nor temperament to be an architect, unfortunately. But I learned about developers, and one in particular, a guy named Jim Rouse, who really became my first professional role model. I never met him, but just by example. And he helped me to appreciate a few things. First of all, he was the first social entrepreneur that I had ever been exposed to. And I went to college in the mid to late 80s. So social entrepreneurism wasn't yet a popular category, wasn't a popular term. But Rouse, the Patagonia was around, Ben & Jerry's was around, but they just weren't household names yet. Rouse really helped me to appreciate that there are businesses where integral in that which makes them profitable or successful, sustainable, scalable, are things that make them purposeful. And when you are able to create a successful business, which is to say profitable, which allows it to grow and prosper and sustain itself, and that's not easy, whatever beneficence is integral in that which makes your product or service profitable gets spread efficiently, right? As you grow, as you increase your operations, your product and service gets out further. And I'm like, that's cool. I want to do that someday. I felt an onus, like Rouse, to try to add value to society through my work. But I was drawn to commerce. I realized that teachers and nonprofit workers and medical workers, they were doing it directly every day, but I was drawn to commerce. So that was one very important thing that Rouse turned me on to. And then the other was, he helped me to appreciate that if you care about the quality of the built environment, the critical thing is to somehow figure out how to get great architects to do great things. That's how you improve the quality of the built environment. And Rouse actually worked with Frank Gehry for 15 years, designing malls and festival marketplaces and other communities. But many developers, frankly, don't care about architects or architecture, which is why there's so much schlock in the world, particularly in Los Angeles.
Right.
So I resolved then that someday I would try to be in a position to help architects. So that's the background. I mean, I can talk more specifically about how I came to Living Homes and Plant, but that's the background.
Yeah, no, I love it. Let's jump into the meat and potatoes here, because you hit the and I always say my soapbox topic here. You know, we need talented architects and designers in our industry if Offsite's going to be successful. Now, you've already figured that out. You've already gone out, like you said, and have partnered with some top architects in this country. And you know, I think it's absolutely amazing, and I think you should be commended for it. Why do you think others don't want to do that?
I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. So, I mean, it's absolutely, it's amazing what you're doing. What has the value for you been partnering with these architects?
Well, great design. I mean, we've done some spectacular homes. We're building some spectacular homes, but understand, I mean, there are really two parts to our business. We're in the architect business of creating high quality architectural homes, custom homes. We're very different from other factories in that respect, both in our focus on custom as opposed to standard work, our focus on high quality, very sustainable, healthy construction techniques, materials. Those are points of differentiation. And the way people can work with us, two general ways. You can hire any architect, and as long as they design according to our design guidelines, which the architects can download at our site, we can build for them. So that's one way. The other way is we have a marketplace with a growing number of standard homes designed by world-class architects, Ray Cappy, Kieran Timberlake, Bahar, who's an industrial designer, Kodo Design, Alchemy. And you can buy standard or you can customize it. So those are the two ways. You've been talking about the partnering, which is on the marketplace, but frankly, most of what we're doing right now in the factory, if you look at what's on the floor, were designed by other architects. It didn't come through our marketplace. It was people just saying, hey, I'm hiring Toby Long in Oakland, or I'm hiring Lindsey Brown in San Diego. Right. I've got a project, maybe it's single family, maybe it's multifamily. I'd like to build it efficiently. I don't want to build it on site. So those are the kind of two ways we work.
Yeah, sure. I think a key thing that you said there was you actually have a program and an outline for architects to follow should they want to build within your systems and or design within your requirements. That's right. Amazing to me. A lot of people don't have that, and I know tech is a big part of what you guys are doing. You want to talk a little bit about the tech side of this and how that happens with the architects and the collaborations?
Yeah, I mean, well, there's tech on a number of levels, I guess. We have on the software side, we developed a engineering system that works with CADWorks, but it's kind of our own software too, that allows us to virtually model every home we build. So that gives us a number of things. It gives us the ability to work out many of the constructability issues from SMEPs, structural, mechanical, electrical, plumbing. So we can figure out things that, frankly, you don't often figure out until you're on site or in the factory, and that wastes time and energy, labor. So you can work it out digitally. Two, we get really a very complete set of plans for what we need to order. As you know, I'm sure construction waste is a huge issue in the industry. Average site building 30-40% of your materials end up in landfill. We're able to detail extremely precisely what we need to order for a specific project. Related to that, we get CNC instructions. Now we have some CNC equipment now that we're using. We're next factory will have a much bigger complement of CNC based equipment. Mm-hmm. And fourth, we actually get barcodes for each component, which we put on the plans so that we can give both the workers at the shop in our factory, as well as the general contractors who ultimately have to do work to finish the home, clarity on each component and instructions about those components. So that's one piece of technology we do. And then our building system, it's a hybrid building system, a new kind of panel that we developed. We call it plant panels. And then we combine them into specialized modules, plant modules, which we can talk more about. So those are a couple. And then our marketplace online, we've got and so I just detailed an engineering system that makes the design process more efficient and sets you up for a more efficient construction process. I briefly highlighted a very high level of building system that gives you more efficient construction and greater flexibility, both in terms of design and transport. Right. And then I alluded to our marketplace online. You can pick, as I said, from a growing number of standard homes from world-class architects, and some allow you to configure those homes like cars with finishes and fixtures that you select in a 3D real-time environment. So that's another super cool capability that we developed that's sort of technology enabled. There's too, but.
Well, you know what? There's a lot to unpack there. So, as far as what you guys are doing, let's hop into the construction side of this, because unlike traditional offsite construction, you are, as you said, you're kind of a hybrid approach. You have the ability, because of your technology in your relationships, to not only build modular, but you're also using panelization as part of your process. And to top this off, this is what a lot of people aren't doing, and I don't know anybody else that is. You are using both steel for wall systems as well as wood, which is allowing you to build these really custom, beautiful, high architectural, high design buildings. Is that accurate?
Yeah, although I would say we don't know too many people that are doing panels and modules too. I'd say that's just as unique as wood and steel, although maybe that's a little bit less unique. There are factories that will do both wood and steel, but in general, they typically do one or the other. So yeah, those are unique things we're doing.
Yeah, for sure. So let's hop into the, kind of the sustainable side of this that you're working on, the healthy homes. That's a passion for yours. That's something you're driving. Healthy homes, affordable homes. Can you elaborate a little bit on what goes into designing a healthy home? You have a lot of awards in this area, and I think it'd be really good for people to understand that offsite construction is helping you achieve that. Is that accurate?
Sure. Yeah, well, yes and no on the offsite part. I mean, with offsite, you get in general less construction waste, but that's probably, which is very important. Don't want to dismiss that. But offsite doesn't automatically make a more energy efficient home or water efficient home, or mean that it's healthier, or mean that, which is an indoor air pollution issue, or mean that you have more responsible use of resources. You don't get that automatically from offsite. You get less construction waste generally if it's a responsible factory, but not the other ones. The other ones have to do with two parts. What the architect designs and specifies, materials and the systems, but frankly, mostly what the factory orders and uses for their materials. Because if you look at a home by weight, most of the materials are actually spec'd by the general contractor or the factory, right? Like the architect, they're going to let you know about things like finishes, fixtures, appliances, spec, performance spec for certain systems like your HVAC, but they're not going to specify, here's the wood you need to use, here's the specific paint you need to use, here's the specific HVAC hardware you need to order, right? That's done by the GC or the factory. So let me clarify what we do from an environmental standpoint from two different directions, right? Because we do have a design group, and a chunk of the homes we're doing are from that group, but a majority are designed by other architects. So let me be clear on that. If you are working with a living home, and what's a living home? Any home you select from our marketplace, we've talked about that a couple times, or custom projects that we design for you, we're going to be designing at a LEED Platinum level environmental program and beyond. And we internally use this program we call Z6 to just help us focus our efforts. We're not like chasing points on LEED, particularly because some clients don't want to pay to get it certified, which is fine, understand it. Turns out LEED certified homes, at least in California, according to a couple studies, sell for more and a quicker sales cycle. So there's some advantages, but nonetheless, not everybody wants to spend that money. As I said, we use Z6 to better clarify the major metrics that we really want to move with respect to health and sustainability. So the first one is energy, and that's the most important category to get right, because your building will use far more energy over its useful life than is embodied in the materials used to make that building. So there's an issue of reducing demand and then sustainably sourcing what you need. So on the demand side, all of our lights, and I'm in the first home we ever designed, which was the first home ever certified LEED Platinum. So those lights, dyslexic, let's see if I can do this. Yeah, those lights above are LEDs. We use LED lights, 10th of the power of incandescent, and no mercury. Super efficient heating and cooling systems. We often use, we used to use a lot high velocity systems, super energy efficient. Now we're using mini splits a lot, which are even more energy efficient. This home has a radiant heating system, a little bit more expensive, but the water is preheated by the sun. So we've got solar water tubes, which also heats the hot water we use. A lot of insulation. There's a roof garden, which helps with insulation. So those are things we do to reduce energy use. And then there's photovoltaics on the roof for power. Water, reduce water, drought tolerant native landscape, low flow water fixtures. And then we have the first permitted gray water system in LA County in this home, and every living home is done, right. Is gray water ready. It's not even an option. So that's using sink, shower, bath water for irrigation. Now you need a landscape solution ultimately. So just being gray water ready doesn't give you gray water. You got to do some work on site for that. all of the major materials are recycled or reclaimed or sustainably sourced. That's what we do to reduce carbon and waste. Indoor air quality, all the paints and stains are low or no VOC, volatile organic compounds. The millwork here is formaldehyde and urea free. These are compounds that get off gas that are health issues. So that's a bunch of other stuff, but that's what we do for the designer. Now, if we're not the designer, you're just building the plant, we're super responsible about the materials we source that you don't spec. So our drywall contains recycled content and it's mold resistant. Our insulation is the highest recycled content commercially available that we could find. Paints and stains are no VOC, bunch of things like that. So that even if, frankly, you don't care about this, we build a responsible home for you from a sustainability and health standpoint.
Yeah. Well, I think more and more people are caring about it, and I think it is growing. I think the younger generation cares a lot about it that's coming up, and there are next, future home buyers that's coming in. I was writing down a question that I wanted to ask you. You talk a product as a service, right? Adding value to society and being more profitable. How has your out of industry experience allowed you to be successful in what you're doing now?
Well, good question. I guess several ways. Starting with what's happening now, I've seen, this is my third major economic crisis. It's my first pandemic, but it's my third economic crisis. My first was, I was running a company, it was kind of Facebook too early. And in 2000, we had 125 people. We had raised 35 million or 32 at that point. We raised 3 million more the next year. But in March of 2000, the market crashed for NASDAQ. In April and May, we beat our numbers. So we thought, all right, well, this isn't terrible. Starting in June, it was nuclear winter. Clients just started going belly up, and we were able to get through and actually even raised a round of money in 2001. But I wished we had hunkered down and really, we did do a layoff, a RIF, but I wish we had done more. And I had one board member saying, you need to get profitable right now. This is ugly.
Right.
2008, I started Living Homes, which is the predecessor firm. Plant kind of grew from Living Homes in 2006, and a year and change later, it was the worst beginning of the worst real estate downturn since the Great Depression. Now, I, of course, had no idea that was going to happen, or of course I would not have started. But I knew enough to say, all right, I have no idea how bad this will be, but we are going to hunker down. We are battening the hatches, and we're just going to assume the worst, because I had been through that experience. And we've done a similar thing now. I mean, business is frankly good for us now. I don't take any of that for granted. We're very busy. The housing market is doing well, so we're not unique in that respect, or relatively speaking, many other industries. But we're proceeding very cautiously and carefully, and not making any assumptions about what will be ahead. So that's one big thing I've learned. And that's really just being a kind of an entrepreneur who's had some base hits and had a bunch of failures.
I've always the term, if you want to be an entrepreneur, you better be prepared to bleed on occasion, is kind of the term I've always I've used, and it's very true. Right? As an entrepreneur, you're always breaking new grounds. You're trying new things. You came from an industry that wasn't really in housing. So was there anything surprising about our industry when you first stepped into it to you? Like, was there any aha moments of the construction process that stands out today?
Well, a number of things. First of all, it's just a much slower clock speed. Things in tech. I mean, I was part of the, as you mentioned, founding team of Idea Lab. And, we had companies that we incubated, and a year later they sold for, tens of millions of dollars, and 4 years after starting went public with a valuation of hundreds of millions. So, things just move quicker digitally. No surprise, distribution is way easier than it is with housing. So that was one thing. One thing that applies here, which frankly I like, in tech, you're really focused on you want to dominate a market, and that often happens. And there are, great and reinforcing advantages for people who do, the Googles and the Apples and Facebooks of the world. That doesn't happen in housing, right? It's a much bigger market than those guys play in, right? Last year, I don't know, $350-60 billion new home construction, but the top 10 home builders, the KB Homes, Lenars, Pulte, Centexes, I think they're like 26-27% of the markets are super fragmented. I like that. I have no ambition to dominate the market. None. We're picking a niche. We think we can be really good at it. It's not the biggest niche in housing, no problem, but it's a niche I think we can serve. We can create a really nice business serving this niche. So that's a thing I really like about it. You can be a rounding error on the market, still be a very large, important company.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, with that, and let's talk about what are the future growth plans. You keep mentioning another factory. Are you looking at having another manufacturing plant? And will you incorporate more automation? Will you expand your footprint and reach? And I'll follow it up with one small caveat in the end. I think you're from the East Coast originally. Are you not? You went to school in Rhode Island?
Well, actually, I was born in Mexico City, but I grew up in North Carolina. So grew up in the East Coast and went to school in Massachusetts and Rhode Island for boarding school and college. Yeah. Because
even I'm on the East Coast. Do you ever see your product working on the East Coast like it is working for you on the West Coast?
Absolutely. We get lots of inquiries. We have national aspirations. Absolutely.
Got it. All right. Very cool. So talk to us a little bit about your plans. What's in store from Plant Prefab?
Well, more factories to serve more parts of the country, more homes from great architects. We've got some coming in the next month or so that I'm super excited about. We've got some great projects we'll be delivering in the next couple weeks. What else? Those are the main things.
Yeah, for sure. So future of Offsite, right? We're all looking at it. We're feeling a big swell of people really taking a closer look at what you do, what we do on the East Coast and throughout this entire country, whether it's panelized or modular. Offsite's really starting to get some traction. The McKinsey report always helps push that along. And even with the down economy, it tends to help offsite construction because we lose so much of our workforce. So it's kind of twofold. How do you see the future of offsite construction heading from here on out? And how are you getting people to work in your factories? Are you having a labor issue where you're at?
Well, two different questions. So in terms of future, I think we're going to be, as a country, it'll be more and more like what happened to Japan and Germany and Scandinavia, which is, those guys have always, they have had for some time much higher construction costs relative to us. Land is more expensive. They don't have as much cheaper land like we do. The smaller countries, they're denser. Labor is more expensive there. Material costs are similar, but so they've had to innovate. And the biggest home builders in Japan Asahi Homes, Sekisui, Toyota Homes. They build with automation. They build with prefab. Scandinavia, majority of homes. Germany. So similar things have really happened here. Really, it started before the downturn, but it super accelerated. 2008 through 2012. A lot of construction labor left. They haven't come back, but just our costs, land, labor, materials have all gone up. So it's just developers, individuals are like, what can we do to, we can't do anything about labor and land and materials. It is what it is. Well, is there anything else? So and the venture community has woken up to the fact that in the investment community, there's a lot of money in this market to be made. The margins are unusually small compared to what they're used to, but nonetheless, a lot of cash can be spun out. You can create very profitable companies. So there's been a lot of investment, and companies are doing some great things, and I think we'll just see more of it. In terms of getting labor, it's hard to get good labor. Even now, we have a kind of a nice value proposition, at least vis-a-vis the site guys. You can make more generally working as a project laborer than you can at Plant Prefab. But the difference is you are going to travel constantly for your work, oftentimes long distances. You're not getting healthcare. You're not getting stock. So a number, and we pay great living wage. So I mean, we pay well, but a finished carpenter can make more working on a project in Bel Air than they will at our plant in Rialto, an hour and 20 minutes away. But they're going to travel generally, an hour and a half, 2 hours each way to their work versus, 10 minutes, assuming they live in the Inland Empire, to our job. And then they don't know where they're going once that job is done.
Yeah. Well, listen, I mean, I would imagine with the technology you guys are implementing in throughout your systems, bringing in the design work of these really well-known architects. I mean, come on, what you're doing is sexy in the construction industry, in my opinion. I don't know any other way of saying it. I think what you're doing is bringing new light, new vision. You're bringing new innovation. You're not just looking at one system. You're looking at you're combining several systems. And I think that's going to help bring the youth back into our market and into building and into construction. I love watching, like I said, what you guys are doing. It's fun. I've been in modular construction myself for 20 years now, and I wish I was doing what you were doing. I think it's the coolest thing ever. So
get it.
All right. So listen, everybody, we're going to jump into some questions and answers and some comments here. If you're tuning us, just so you know, Steve, we are live on LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube. And the reason I read out the comments when they go on your screen is the platform doesn't put them on all the comments. So if somebody's tuning in somewhere else. But we did have a question from Etienne Gubler. Etienne is I don't know if you've ever met him. He's the CEO of SIGA North America. They do high energy wrap systems and tapes for waterproofing of the home. So Etienne says, love the focus on healthy products and totally agree that not only the architect has a big responsibility in selecting the products. Have you done any passive house builds or comparable low operational energy projects?
Well, almost everything we do is low energy. We've done, I think, 27 LEED Platinum certified homes. That's certified. We build to a LEED Platinum level if we're the designers, I mentioned anywhere, but 27 have been certified Platinum and a bunch LEED Gold. So you really can't get that without being pretty responsible about energy. Yeah. Right. We've never done passive house standard. In California, which is mostly where we built, the standard doesn't work so well. We don't have the big temperature swings. So it's hard to, you would do unnatural things here to get certified. And by unnatural, I mean, it doesn't make, you don't have to do it because our climate is much more mild. Having said that, we do have something pretty cool that hopefully we'll be able to announce in the next month or so that's in that domain.
Cool. Can you announce it right here on Dave Cooper Live?
I cannot.
You're going to warm up to me, Steve. You wait. All right, let's get to another question. Thank you, Etienne, for your question. Anthony Goudet, Steve Glenn, are Plant Prefab sales and distribution channels all internal, or Plant Prefab developing a builder network to expand nationally?
Yeah, so, well, two things. I mentioned before that we're going to build more factories so that we can serve a greater audience. And we don't do the site work. And we currently don't even do transport or install. So we will and we've got a number of general contractors that we refer people to, that we've done multiple projects with. And we're always looking for good GCs. Again, right now we're mainly serving California. But we will, as we grow, develop a more basically a certification program for, I call them general contractors, you could say builders, but people who want to work with us and do the site work. And by the way, for certain projects, it's substantial. It's not just foundation, right? Because we do, the significance of a hybrid system isn't just because we think it's cool. It's because when you're in the custom business, you need to solve the project in the most efficient way possible with whatever constraints are inherent. So for example, you can't always take modules to every site. There are issues with transport, getting a 18-wheeler to a site, or perhaps crane issues. You can't do big cranes because of certain challenges there, power lines or trees or whatever. So it may be that you're just doing all panelized. Or it may be that you can easily access with mods, and that's the most cost-efficient way, and the design doesn't require anything other. So it's all mods. Or, as is increasingly the case with us, it's a hybrid with special core mods for kitchens, baths, utility cores. I'm sharing all this to say there can be substantial site work depending upon what we're doing. So absolutely, we do and will increasingly work with general contractors to do that work and to give our clients an integrated experience.
Yeah, perfect. All right, thanks for that question. I have a follow-up question to that. Are there any markets you're currently looking at right now to start servicing that you're not servicing yet, that are on the horizon?
No.
Well, that was quick.
Our next factory is in California.
The next factory is in California as well. All right, do we have another question? All right. Hi, is that Lamb? Lumber importer based out of India. We are import lumber from Canada. We supply to many cottage builders here. What is your opinion on prefab homes for the Indian market demand-wise? Well, that's a tough one. Go ahead.
Well, funny enough, we did do a design project for a home in outside of Mumbai. Don't know if it was ever built. Steel frame home.
Right.
It's actually very cool. We have had inquiries over the years from people and developers in India. It seems like a great market. We're focused on the U.S. right now, but I know it's a very fast-growing market, and right. People do appreciate architecture there.
Yeah. I mean, it's great. All the way from India. Thank you so much for tuning in with us today. All right, Jen, do we have another question? Mark Build, Small Casistas. All right. Could you share with us what gives you the biggest joy with what you do and have achieved?
Well, let's start with the achieve part. So we're a venture funded company. Honestly, unless and until we create shareholder value, which when you take money from investors, you're entering into an implicit promise. You're going to do your best to make them money. Now, we're a purpose-driven company, and investors in this company definitely support that. And from a purpose standpoint, I think we've done a pretty good job of two things in particular. One, building homes that have a much lower ecological footprint and that are much healthier than the average home. I feel good about that. think we've been able to really preserve the great design integrity that architects have expressed with the plans that we've built. I think we've done a good job with that. So I feel good about the purpose side. I think we're pretty responsible with our staff and the communities in which we operate. So that's all great. But at the end of the day, we're in the business of creating a return for shareholders. And unless and until that happens, I probably won't feel great joy. So that answers that part. And what brings me joy though at work, I mean, I love seeing, I love design. I mean, I love going through a home that we are building, that we've installed, that's finished, that reflects great design. That gives me great joy.
Yeah, great. Well, great question from Mark. Mark is a leader in the passive house world internationally and globally. So thank you for tuning in today, Mark. It's always great when you come on board. All right, we got another question, Jen. Coming from tech industry, is there a predisposition for management to seeing the value in R&D? The building industry has been challenged in seeing the value. Well, there's a good question.
Sorry, are you saying do we see the value in R&D, or are you saying is there predisposition? Well, yes, we see great value in R&D. We've invested significant resources in R&D, absolutely, and all that kind of technology stuff that I mentioned earlier, and that was just some of the stuff we're working on. That reflects that.
Yeah. So, all right. So that would lead us into, the smart home stuff that you're doing, right? We're talking about R&D. We're talking about being a leader. We're talking about tech homes. You have a relationship with Amazon. Can you touch on that for us?
Sure. Yeah. So Amazon's one of our investors. They invested in the in our last financing, and it came out of the Alexa group, which the Alexa fund, which is focused on smart home technology. And we announced a few months ago a package of smart home, integrated smart home systems that we worked with them on. So if you go to plantprefab.com and you click on living homes, and then you click on, I think it's called gallery, you can see different standard homes we have. And the top 3 you can configure with a really cool 3D interactive design tool that we developed. And you can pick finishes and fixtures, but at the very end, it allows you to pick smart home packages. And we work with Amazon on these packages. And when we deliver the home, it comes with the equipment, and you call Amazon and they send over a technician to configure it for you, which is really cool. So we worked on that with Amazon.
Yeah. Really, really cool. All right, Jen, let's get, for the sake of time, it's about 45 minutes. Let's get through a couple more comments if we could, Jen, and then that's it. Brian Gaudio. Hey, Brian from Module in Pittsburgh. Steve Glenn, thanks for sharing your story today. Nice to hear an update from you. Thanks, Brian.
Oh, appreciate it.
All right, next one, Jen. Rick Hawkins. Hey, Rick, a founder with a clear vision and strategy for success with a defined purpose. Love it. Thanks for tuning in, Rick.
Appreciate it.
Brent Mosen, the housing crisis is mostly characterized by shortage and lack of affordability. What are you doing to be cost sustainable?
Yeah, so a great question. We're kind of following Tesla's playbook, and frankly, they followed BMW and a bunch of people before, which is doing lower cost stuff. It's hard, but mostly it requires volume. And it's a chicken or egg, right? Like, well, it's hard to get volume unless you have lower cost. Well, it's hard to get lower cost unless you have volume. So what have many companies done to do that? Well, you start with higher end, more expensive, better margin, figure stuff out, hopefully get smarter and smarter in terms of design, in terms of manufacturing, broaden your customer base, get that volume up, and now you can start doing things at a lower cost. Again, I know I mean, I drive a Model 3, so great example, right? Tesla started, higher end stuff, and the S and then the X, and they just got smarter and smarter, built up production capability, built up their base, built up their know-how, and then they were in a position to do a lower cost car, and that's what we're doing. We're still a rounding error on a rounding error in terms of the amount of homes we produce a year. We are doing a range of projects, including affordable housing, but for cities where it's more expensive to build. We couldn't do an affordable housing project, for example, in San Bernardino, which is right next to us, because it's the same labor rate, but then there's transport and install, which adds money.
Right.
However, as we get bigger, have more volume, which is happening, thankfully, and as we create a next generation set of factories that have much greater automation, we will be capable of doing more affordable housing, lower cost housing. And we are absolutely committed to that. But I guess I just tried to communicate, you'd love to start there, but it turns out it's not just automation. Volume too, because, oh, by the way, about in general, half the cost of a home is materials, half the cost is labor. So and no way you get better on the material side without volume, better pricing, I should say. Or you can use cheap stuff, but that's not our gig. You want the absolute cheapest, get a mobile home. It's vinyl floors, it's vinyl windows, it's not the healthiest stuff. And I'm not judging, that's not our trip. We won't do that. But we want to do what we do at much lower price points, and we will.
Yeah. So one of the things we're seeing, Steve, is some collaborations at least within the modular industry that's taking place now, where modular manufacturers across the country are starting to pull their resources together and have a coalition to be able to produce more, to have better buying power, et cetera. Do you see something like that as feasible in your world?
Oh, well, that's awesome. We'd love to join with that. Yeah. Whoever's doing that, reach out to me, steve@plantprefab.com.
Yeah. So if you know Von Buckley from yeah, well, that it's happening. And also even on the panelized side of stuff, I think, being only 4% of the entire industry offsite in general, whether it's panelized, modular, SIPs, whatever the case is, there's only one way to go. And I think the collaboration, in my opinion, really makes a lot of sense. So I will, after the show, I'll put you in touch with everybody and set up a call if you're interested.
Awesome.
All right, Jen, do we have a couple more questions? Well, that's a big one. It blocks everybody out. Joining from Turkey, where modular construction doesn't exist at all, though construction sector is the main power of the country, there is a component-based prefab which is strongly affiliated with low-cost, low-quality construction. We as a company are a firm believer of modular construction and determined to start this in Turkey. How do you suggest to start a business where there is no market and no competition, which means it's actually very hard to explain and sell modular construction?
Wow. Okay. Well, that's that's going to be hard to summarize in a few minutes. Although, let me just say this: if there truly is no market, you should not do this. I think wrong. I think there probably is a huge market. I think maybe what you're saying is, well, it doesn't exist yet, and who cares? I mean, if let me say this: if in Turkey, and I have no idea, I've never been, love to go, by the way, but I don't know what your market's like there, but if you have problems with uneven quality, projects can take too long, maybe they're too expensive, any of these issues, offsite construction can help, right? Parallel construction, quality control, can be lower cost depending upon certain variables, but certainly faster and high quality, consistent quality. Well, if that's an issue with the existing traditional site-based approaches, then you have the potential to create a better solution using offsite technology. So there is a market. You have the opportunity to be the first mover in that market, and you just need to be in a position to communicate to developers or individuals, depends who you're targeting, who are working, who care about that stuff. They care about delays. They care about quality issues. And so, I mean, look, I'm this is going to kind of reflect what we know, which is only one part of this. But maybe you start with a little bit of the higher end market where it's going to be a little more forgiving. People will probably care about this more. It's harder to do the lower cost stuff, as I just said, without massive investment and volume. So anyway, there's a few ideas.
Yeah, for sure. All right, we're going to take one more comment here. Does glulam and CLT or DLT can get more relevant in your segment?
Well, we use glulam beams a lot. CLT, it's expensive. It's probably a better solution right now for larger multifamily projects, which we don't do. We don't see that being a good solution for single family projects, that we do, or the smaller multifamily. There's some code issues too, although I think that stuff's getting worked out. But I think CLT will be used much more here, like it is used in Europe, and certainly companies like Katera are making a big push.
Yeah, and it's big in Canada as well. So we're gonna do one more comment / question, and then keep going to wrap it up. Hi, Steve. How do prospective homeowners secure financing for your homes? That was a big question at IBS as well, if you remember. I think this is a great topic for you to elaborate on.
Yeah. So I mean, in California, and frankly, the other states we've worked in, we've done projects in a handful of other states. Modular homes legally are considered the same as a site-built home. There literally is no legal distinction. There's no title disclosure requirements. They can't be discriminated with respect to zoning or financing. In contrast, a HUD code, right, a manufactured home, banks do not have to finance. So banks can exclude this. Now, having said that, they don't have to give you the payment schedule that most of us, at least modular manufacturers, require, right? We like to have all the materials in the factory before we start. And that means we need to get a big chunk of your money before we start the project. The traditional site-based approaches are small chunks, often over a long period of time. We're like, half up front and half, 4 months later. And so some banks are like, that we don't like that. They also don't like that they can't lien materials as easily, right? Because they're not on site. But so long-winded answer. There are a number of banks we refer people to that like doing this. US Bank actually used to have a division. Sadly, they got rid of it, but there are a bunch of banks out there that like this stuff, and we refer people to, and we've had a bunch of conversations with others, which at Verisi start with, hey, my bank said they won't do it, and that they don't do prefab homes. And like, no, they're thinking it's manufactured, and they cannot say no to this. But they don't have to give you the payment schedule. And some have gotten comfortable and some haven't. But that's an issue. It's not as frictionless as it should be. Putting aside the fact that getting a construction loan isn't like the easiest thing, but it does add a layer of complexity to banks that aren't familiar. They are awesome.
Well, it is. And once the banks understand the process and the security of what their money is versus site built, the banks typically will get on board. We're seeing a lot of banks across the country get on board. And there's actually some conferences or some online conferences, I believe, that are coming up that address this. They're going to have a bunch of banks on to educate them coming up. So that part's growing. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. All right. So I know you're pressed for some time, Steve. So I think if you could, there's other comments in here. We could spend all day, I'm sure, doing this. Everybody's always excited to hear from you. I wanted to give a couple quick shout outs. I mean, we have people from Vietnam. We have people from Turkey. We have people from India joining us, the UK, from all over the world, which I think is great for you to get your word out there and to talk about what you're doing. A couple shout outs to Alistair Sawyer in Vietnam, Jim Baldwin, I see George Ryman was on, Salma Alabi, Beatrice Ramnarin, I think I said that, Ramnarine is on, and many others. We will get to all your questions sometime in the comments here. Steve, dude, this was awesome, man. I'm so happy you took the time to come on, and I hope you enjoyed yourself.
Yeah, no, this is great. What you're doing is a tremendous service to the industry. I really appreciate it. And I'm going to be a regular watcher in the future. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Well, I love it. We may be out your way soon doing where we walk through the factories live and show people the innovation that's happening.
That'd be great. When things open up, you're totally welcome. That'd be awesome.
Yeah. No, I appreciate it. All right, everybody. Thank you for. All right, everybody. There it was. That was the interview with Steve Glenn. I appreciate everybody tuning in today. A couple shout outs, man, to some great people. Paul Motrim, I've already sent your question off to Steve and Tom as well. So I'm sure Steve will send a response back. I wasn't able to tag you because we're not connected. So make sure that you connect with us, and also subscribe to our YouTube channel so you always get informed of when we are live with what we're doing. It's a big deal. So Joel, what's up, Joel? I see Joel's out there in the audience. Chris is out there. Hey, Chris, let me see what you got here. Chris, Dave Cooper, you mentioned there were some upcoming conferences for banking. Are you able to share which ones? Would love to get info for those. So, Chris, there are some virtual conferences coming up for this. I will get some information out. It has not been released to me to go ahead and just say that yet, because it's with some like Fulcrum and some other big players out there that are looking to tackle this space. So when it does come out, Chris, we will be announcing it for sure. This review with Steve Glenn goes back a couple months, was one of the first things we started doing when we got in here with COVID. And the reason we did a replay today and not a live show is we're moving. If you were to look around me right now, there's boxes everywhere. But we're moving, and we are going to be streaming from probably from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania next week. And then we're heading down to Florida, and our road show is beginning to in the beginning stages of coming together. So we're really looking forward to that as well. We're going to be on the road February, March, April, May, June, July, August, September, however long it takes to bring innovation to everybody and showcase that across this great country of ours. Everybody else, we're all stuck at home. Well, we're going to bring what's happening in the world to you from our travels. So like I said, Paul, I did send your question off. Tom, I look forward to those drinks when we get back to Pittsburgh. And you know what, Joel, I see you tuned in. George Ryman, thank you. John Jaworski, you as well. It's always a pleasure having you guys tune in. We will be live tomorrow, Thursday, on I'm losing my mind. Increasing Influence with Miles Biggs Idea. And we will be live on Friday for Building Science, BS Friday, with Mark Bare Naked Willie. We're going to have Corbett Lunsford on, and we're going to also have his wife on. Man, they've been traveling the country, left, west, east, north, south, all over the place, talking about sick homes, fixing houses, making people's lives better. And they actually have their own TV show, which is kind of cool. So it'll be a lot of fun on Friday as well. So, all right, everybody, listen, I appreciate you bearing with us this week as we move our locations. Like I said, we are going to be live 6 days a week. We are still doing this for the near foreseeable future, at least another 5-6 months, maybe forever. Who knows? Anyways, that's it, everybody. Have a great day. I am Dave Cooper, and thank you once again to our sponsors, Forward Solutions Group, Ben Hershey and Joe Butler. They are the best out there when it comes to helping panelized and volumetric modular industry with their needs all the way around. So they offer consulting with investors, developers, manufacturers, and builders, and using offsite manufacturing methods. So really like these guys. Please get a hold of Ben at forwardsolutionsgroup.com if you want more information for that. And I will put that in the ticker down below here. Outside of that, everybody have a wonderful rest of your Wednesday. I'm Dave Cooper, and we will see you tomorrow, 1 p.m. Bye now.